What is up, Ivy Leaguers? Listen, I got a banger of an episode for you today. But before we start, listen, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. It'd be much appreciated. But let's get into it. All right. It is that time of the year. It is my favorite time of the year. Well, not yet. It's getting ready to be, though. All right. College football season is around the corner. That's a round of applause to start. All right. I know y'all are clapping at home. All right. That's wonderful. College football season is about to start. And that means that all the excitement, all the lights, all the fun, all the crazy upsets, all the sadness, all the happiness, all the joy is getting ready to come back. Okay? And I'm announcing this special project that I'm working on. It's not being released today. It'll probably be released closer to the season. And it is a tribute to college football. It's a documentary based on why college football is awesome. So that will be released on the podcast here in maybe a month or so. So keep looking out for that. That's going to be a heck of an episode. But today I've picked 4 or 5 teams that I really want to detail. And this isn't going to be a very long episode, all right? It might be 5, 10 minutes tops. So I picked out 4 or 5 teams that I really kind of want to dive into and explore and say, what is this team going to do? Is the hype real for this team? So, and let me know in the comments because I'm going to be doing this up until the season. So let me know the next 4 or 5 teams that you want to hear, okay? But today, our first team that we're going to kind of dive into is the LSU Tigers. And LSU is a very interesting case because obviously last year, their record shows that they were pretty poor. They were not good at all. Obviously, they fired their head coach midway through the season. They had a quarterback change. They had all this crazy stuff going on, and it really just wasn't a good season for LSU until about that last week of the season when they decided to hire Lane Kiffin away from Ole Miss. And I am personally someone, I would not want Lane Kiffin coaching my team. Like, as an Alabama fan, I would not want Lane Kiffin coaching Alabama. However, I also don't want him coaching the team I'm playing against because he is really a mastermind when it comes to his offense. He's really good at recruiting. He has a magnetic personality, which both to recruits and both, off the field issues sometimes. But, you got to give him a hard time for what he does. But LSU hiring Lane Kiffin was massive, and it really flipped the switch on LSU, especially recruiting-wise. I mean, according to ESPN, they signed the #1 transfer portal class, which is not a small feat. Okay, that is hard to do. And also, they signed plenty of good freshman recruits, so they've got it in the groundworks, but they've also got guys who are ready to start right now and play and succeed. So a lot of people are thinking that LSU is a title favorite going into this season. And I don't disagree. But I would be a little cautious, okay? Because at LSU, you have to win, all right? Before, Lane Kiffin was at Ole Miss, all right? Ole Miss isn't used to winning, okay? They aren't. They're used to maybe having 3 or 4 losses a season. That's not going to put up at LSU, okay? That's not going to... LSU fans are pretty rabid. We know this. They don't like to lose, even to big teams. They don't like to lose, all right? They've got Alabama coming into Death Valley this year. If they lose that game, LSU fans will be tearing at the head of Lane Kiffin. So we don't want to... Lane Kiffin needs to understand that he's not at Ole Miss anymore. He is at a powerhouse school. And I think he does understand, LSU is ready to succeed now. And they have the pieces in place, all right? Obviously, transfer quarterback Sam Levitt is a huge addition. However, he's coming off of an injury. Is he going to be that next level quarterback? I think so. I think he's a Heisman candidate nonetheless, disregarding that injury, of course. I'm interested to see how that injury affects him because, SEC ball is tough. It's physical, and he is a mobile quarterback. So if he gets out of the pocket, he starts running, and all of a sudden you've got a linebacker come flying in and drill him, especially wherever his injury was. Is he going to be okay? And I'm not saying he's not. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's a tough quarterback. Like I said, I think he's a Heisman finalist or a Heisman candidate, preseason wise. So, I'm just interested to see how this team works out. They have plenty of skill players. They have a pretty solid offensive line, not a bad offensive line. They've got a great defensive front seven. The secondary is where it maybe gets iffy, but I could see their secondary being able to compete with a lot of these teams. So I'm really interested to see how this LSU team plays out. My opinion is that I think they're a first round playoff team this year. Next year, they might be national championship contenders. I think this year they're a first round playoff team. I see them succeeding in what they do, but I don't see them beating a team like Georgia or beating a team like Ohio State or beating a team like even Miami. So I really see LSU as a first round playoff team this year, and then next year maybe reaching, maybe the semifinals, maybe the national championship, maybe something like that. But that's, I think, their limit right now. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they go and win the national championship this year. I just don't see it yet. Yet. That is my whole thing. Not yet. Maybe next year. So that is kind of my take on LSU. Again, very good, but is not there yet. All right, so now let's move on to our second team. All right, and our second team is Texas. All right, UT. Well, some would say the real UT. Some would say not the real UT. Texas. All right, Texas is coming off of kind of a weird season. All right, they obviously started Arch Manning. Arch Manning was going great. Well, actually, that's not true. Arch Manning has all the hype in the world, but he started off the first 6 games of the season looking like a third-string quarterback for a varsity high school football team. Okay, he didn't play good in the first couple of games last season. It was bad. It was so bad that people were thinking that he was never going to get drafted. It was horrible. And I mean, look, I like Arch Manning. I like what he does. But even he can admit it was really bad. Then he switched it around. I can't remember exactly what game it was, but I want to say it was Mississippi State. Because there was all of a sudden a huge flip. Okay, Texas came back from down, I think, 17 in the fourth quarter to beat Mississippi State. And all of a sudden you had Arch Manning, who originally played horrible. And all of a sudden you had him performing like a superstar quarterback. You look at that game against Texas A&M, he played incredible. He was running all over Texas A&M. He really showed Heisman caliber talent. I mean, elite talent. So I think the biggest question for Texas is, what is Arch Manning going to do? Because you look, Texas had a wonderful transfer portal class, wonderful recruiting class. I mean, they got the 2 best skill players, I think, in the portal in Hollywood Smothers and Cam Coleman. So I think those guys are going to make huge impacts year one. They've also got a great returning group. They've got a pretty good defense. I would say one of the better defenses in the SEC. The big question, though, what is Arch Manning going to do? Because is he going to start slow like last season? And maybe that's just an Arch Manning thing. Maybe it is he's not great at the beginning of the season. He has to settle into his team. Or is he going to pick up from where he left off last year and show the hard work and show what we all want to see, and that is a superstar? Because if he shows that, Texas is a national championship contender, no doubt. If he doesn't show that, they might make the playoffs. Maybe not. But I think that Arch Manning shows it. I think he picks up from where he left off last year. I think he keeps it going. All right. I think he might not be, I want to say he's Heisman candidate, but then of course he won't do that. I think he could easily be the best quarterback in the SEC. I don't think that's an outrageous statement. There's not too many better than him right now. So I really like Arch Manning. I think he's going to pick up from where he left off last year, and I think Texas is a national title contender. All right, so that's 2 teams. All right, we got 2 more. Now we're going to go over to the ACC. All right, we did 2 SEC teams. It's only fair that we go over to the ACC. We're going to talk about Clemson for a minute. A real talk about the Clemson Tigers. And look, I got a lot of friends that are Clemson fans. All right, I live in South Carolina. I can't help it. But what I'm getting ready to say is quite sad. Clemson football might be dead. Moment of silence for that. Clemson football might be gone. Because Dabo Swinney refuses to adapt. Okay? I get that he doesn't like the transfer portal. But you got to use it. Okay? I don't like the transfer portal either. But that doesn't mean I don't want Alabama to sign Cam Coleman, which they didn't, but I wanted them to. Okay? you have to adapt, okay? And if you don't want to adapt, you can just quit because you're not going to do anything. He has not shown a good coaching performance in a very, very long time. I mean, last season, Clemson fans will agree with me. It was really sad to watch. I mean, it was like really horrible to watch. It almost made you sick to watch. This isn't the Clemson football that we all love and know. I mean, not me, but I don't like Clemson anyway. Shout out my Clemson fans. But I don't think that they're going to do anything different this year. I don't see them succeeding. I don't see them winning the ACC, one. I think there are a lot of games that they will lose in the ACC because they just don't have the team in place that these other teams do. And it's no offense to Clemson as a university necessarily. It's an offense to Dabo Swinney. I don't think Clemson will be anything until they move on from Dabo Swinney. Unless all of a sudden he flips it around this year. Maybe he does. Maybe he flips it around. I just don't think it happens. I think he is not a great coach. That's the only way I can describe it. I don't think he's a good coach anymore. He was. In his heyday, he was a top 3 coach in the nation. But he's not anymore. It's a different game. So I think that Clemson fans need to accept the fact that this season is not going to be what they want it to be. It's probably going to be a season where we see Dabo Swinney pushed out. I wouldn't be surprised if he's fired at the end of the season. However, it is Dabo. He has a way of keeping his job, so maybe he'll keep it. And maybe Clemson will do the same thing they did last year this year. I don't know. And that is not be a competing football team. That's my take on Clemson. And I know it's a harsh take, but that's my take on Clemson. All right? We got one more team. All right? One more team that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to do the whole thing with a bunch of different teams in the next episode. One more team. The Michigan Wolverines. And they are a scandalous football team. I mean, scandal here, scandal there. Fire your AD there. Hire a new coach here. Oh, wait, the new head coach just gets, accused for sexual assault and all this crazy stuff. So we hire a new coach who may be good. We don't know. Kyle Whittingham, their new head coach, is a very good head coach. I like him a lot. I do. He was at Utah before, and he was very successful at Utah. He's also a good guy, allegedly. I've never met him, but I've heard good things about him. So it's rare for Michigan to hire a head coach that's actually a good guy. So they're doing good in that department so far. No accusations yet. All right, it's early for Michigan. But Michigan's going into a season where they just fired their athletic director. All right. They still have a pretty young quarterback. However, I love Bryce Underwood. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's a very Cam Newton type. But again, he is still young. I also think that Michigan, their new coach, new identity, so that's going to take some getting used to. I'm not saying that Michigan's going to be bad, but I think playoffs would be the highest they could reach this year. I don't think they're going to compete with an Ohio State. All right, I don't think they're going to compete with a Texas or a Miami or even in Indiana. I don't think they're going to compete with Indiana very much. I don't think they're going to compete with a lot of teams that are high on my list. I just don't think that Michigan would compete with. And maybe I'm crazy by saying that, but it's no offense to Kyle Whittingham. I really like what Kyle Whittingham could do at Michigan because he could really implement a superstar lineup at Michigan. And Michigan has the money. Michigan can buy the best players out there. But it really is a matter of will Bryce Underwood perform, and also will the Michigan Wolverines accept what Kyle Whittingham is bringing to the table? Because Michigan Wolverine, they're stubborn. They like to play their type of football. We saw it last year. All right, whenever someone stopped letting them play their type of football, they couldn't play anymore. And so Kyle Whittingham has a different type of football. But will the actual players, will the coaches that have been there, will they accept this? I don't know. But again, I think that the highest Michigan will reach is a playoff appearance. I don't see them winning a playoff game. I'm sorry. I just don't. I would like to say that they do, but I just don't see it. All right? I don't think that they will make a run in the play. I think they might make the playoffs, but I just don't see them making a run. Bryce Underwood's a great quarterback. Maybe Bryce Underwood's a Heisman finalist, but I just don't think that Michigan makes a run. That's my take. All right? I like Kyle Whittingham, but I don't think he is able to bring Michigan. I mean, Michigan's really in shambles. Their past two coaches have basically been run out of the NCAA. There have been countless scandals. I mean, the last count was, I think, since 2016, there have been 24 different scandals. I mean, that's pathetic, y'all. You really have to be running a pretty scummy organization to have that many scandals. And that's why they fired the athletic director. I get it. And maybe they're trying to turn a new page and be better. I just don't know. I think there's a lot of questions around Michigan right now, and there's like a dark cloud hanging over them with all these scandals and all this stuff. And it's really hard to overcome that. It's really hard. It doesn't make you want to play for your university. It's almost like as a player, you're sitting there, you're like, do I even want to win? And so I think it's tough. I think it's tough on the new coach. I think it's tough on the players. I think it's just a tough situation. So I'm interested to see how they rebound. I just don't think that they will be as good as some people think they will be. That's my take. All right, those are our 4 teams for this episode. Let me know in the comments the next 4 college football teams you want me to analyze, okay? I'm willing to do anybody. I'm talking North Dakota State, Sacramento State. I'm talking whoever. Whoever you want to see, we'll talk about, because this is an Ivy League sports show. This is all for the fans, all right? Until next time, Ivy Leaguers, Ivy Taylor signing off. Have a good one. Good night.